Welcome to Good Morning Uganda. My name is Olive Monica Najuma. It's a fresh new day. We have some rain already. Hopefully you can get to your place of work and business in one piece. Drive safe. Do not drive very fast because the roads are slippery, especially given that it is raining. That said, it's a beautiful morning. We're glad to be here to be having these enlightening conversations with you. That's what we do every single morning. Our role is to inspire, educate, and also entertain you, because that is our mandate as Uganda Broadcasting Corporation. Now, in Rizi sub-region, that is in Uganda district, unfortunately, a police officer was turned on by a crowd of people at a burial, and unfortunately, he did lose his life. Now, the police officer had been sent to ensure that there is security at the burial of an inmate that took ill while in police cells and later succumbed and died. Now, according to the family, they made allegations that probably something happened to the deceased while incarcerated. Unfortunately, the crowd turned on the police officer and he lost his life. Quite sad news coming in from that side of the country in Uganda. Good morning, Julie.
Good morning, Olive.
How are you?
Good morning to you who's watching us on UBC today. Good morning, Uganda.
Yes, Julie, quite sad news coming in from Uganda. When I watched this news, the one thing that came to my mind is how intolerant as a people we've become towards police. For me, it paints a picture of us taking police not to be human beings and treating them any way we want. If there is, let's say, a theft, an accident, or anything that involves police, when you listen to the conversations of most people, they're like, Chabagwanide. They saw it coming, something of that nature. But these gentlemen and women are doing their jobs. So why do you think there is this intolerance when it comes to our men in uniform?
Well, in fact, this intolerance is on a wider scope, and just sometimes it's even a political thing. I don't know, but people are very emotional, and people are at a state where they do not listen or hear out. For as long as it's a man in uniform, and perhaps it's from past examples of probably different cases the police has put up in place in handling cases, corruption. There's an injustice felt in the air, that's looming in the air. So right now, people, I think, are at a state where they're intolerant. They want to take matters in their own hands because they feel that those who are supposed to enforce the law are not on their side at the end of the day. I believe I believe it's feeling that's looming in the air, not just in the area where this incident happened, but you could see different areas, even here in Kampala. You can tell that when someone sees the police on the road or sees any
it's like they have
anyone
seen
in
the
uniform.
enemy. Yes.
Yeah, if they see anyone in uniform, it's like obviously it's the enemy. By the way, even when you hold conversations with different people and you tell them that, well, when I see the police, I feel safe. I'm comfortable just going through them because I feel safe. They'll tell you things like, nope, the police is our enemy. You try to pass by there, they'll just hit you with batons. And I think it goes back now to whoever is concerned at policy level. What should be done? How should the hearts of Ugandans be brought to peace with men in uniform? And one of the major reasons, ideally, is corruption. People have been hurt by corruption. You go to police thinking that you're going to receive justice and you're asked for money. Or someone who is in the wrong pays money and they just walk away with it. So people feel that, okay, since the law can't help us, let's take matters in our own hands. But it's really, really sad, and I wouldn't advise anyone to be a part of a mob justice incident. It's just not
well, so
right.
far 29 people have been arrested to help with the investigations into the murder of this police officer. Now, Robert, first of all, good morning.
A lovely morning to you. I love your pink.
Thank you. How are you?
So gorgeous.
Do not affiliate it to anything today, all right?
Today there is nothing, thank God.
I
Maybe
have nothing
Cinderella.
to appreciate it. Apart
Interesting.
from the traditional growing up knowing that pink is for girls.
And I have my thoughts on that.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, me too, I do.
But
That's
Robert,
a conversation for another day.
yes, it is. Robert, this incident in Rizi, I have asked Julie about the intolerance that we have as a people towards men in uniform. In the beginning, it was a bit subtle, but the incidents we see happening more and more, it's more, actually, it's no longer subtle. It's an open secret that there is hatred between police, the Uganda police force, and the people that it's supposed to protect, because its mandate is to maintain law and order. How come we are at a place where we see police as the enemy, so much so that now we have decided to become heavy-handed and even murder police officers? Is it because of the corruption Julie has mentioned, or is it because of the heavy-handedness of the police, especially during incidents where they are querying like riots, protests, and so much more? What could be the trigger?
Now you've given me the answers, to be very honest, because you talked about corruption, then you talked about the heavy-handedness that has been exhibited. It's very unfortunate that we are talking about the death of Police Constable Chemongez Sulaimani, attached to that is Bisheshe Police Post in Uganda. Now, two things that speak great, and I want to urge whoever is investigating to look at this critically. One, the deceased was arrested due to a land wrangle. Now, taken to prison, falls ill, taken to a health center, that is Luhoko Health Center. Then upon death, the relatives informed. Because the widow was clear, I knew nothing, only to be told that my husband has died. The mob was annoyed and upset because, one, they believed that Bisheshe police station, throughout this offense, there were corrupt tendencies. So they believed this man was in the first place arrested for the wrong reasons. He could have been the oppressed, but was ending up in prison. Now already there was rage. Mishandling that Judy talked about, that you've talked about. And the police has confirmed they're going to investigate. Now, first let's see. Had this case been well investigated, maybe the deceased, now you have two dead people, maybe Lazarus would not have been in prison. That is one.
And the police is also investigating the fact that this officer was involved in corrupt tendencies
Now,
at his post.
no, they're saying the particular post, not him, not the constable, but the particular post. Because you find that the constables are just sent, but you have a CID officer who handles investigation. Now, another area of concern, police issued standard, or we call standard operating orders or procedures. And I remember they even gave them booklets that no police officer with an AK-47 will go for deployment alone.
Yes, for me that was my biggest point of contention. Why was he there alone? Now the first statement I saw alleged that he arrived before his colleagues, but from the other footage I have seen, it shows that he was there, the burial occurred, the burial ended
Before
where were the other
colleagues
police
had arrived,
officers?
yes.
Because a police constable in police is not so much of that trained or experienced police officer. Now, you know there is a burial which has got issues.
Yes.
That's why you are deployed, and there is one young man. So, all of this The 29 arrested, I condemn in the strongest terms mob justice, because it is never justice anyway. I don't even know why we call it mob justice. Because justice is when there has been investigations, you've gone through a competent court, and you've been sentenced. Now with mob justice, there is no there is totally nothing. But before we look at the public, if you want to solve some, you see, there are some diseases you can't just treat anyhow. You must know the root cause. If it's about hygiene, even if we give you medicine today, tomorrow you'll fall sick again.
Anyway, it's really sad what did happen in Uganda district. I am of the view that mob justice is not solving anything, because now we have 29 people that have been arrested to help or to aid investigations. Unfortunately, some of these people might be guilty and they might end up in prison. So someone was killed, but now other people are going to jail, and probably if they're family people, now we have families that are not going to have maybe fathers or mothers, because I don't know the genders of the people that were arrested. At the end of the day, the laws of Uganda are clear. Mob justice is illegal. It doesn't matter how dissatisfied, how angry you are. Taking matters into your own hands is illegal. It's not okay, because you commit someone and you sentence them in the court of public opinion, but we have laws, and the laws are here for a reason. So we should always remind ourselves before we get involved in mob justice that there are dire consequences. But with that being said, let's look at our local news.
We'll begin with African leaders who have convened at Munyonyo in Kampala to evaluate the current status of the SDGs in Africa, with emphasis put on identifying key bottlenecks in Africa's development agenda. Key among the prominent African leaders were His Excellency Dr. Ernest Bai Koroma, former President of the Republic of Sierra Leone, His Excellency Dr. Mochaf Marzuiki, the former President of the Republic of Tunisia. And in a keynote address, President Museveni reminded the delegates that even before independence, Africa's first challenge was the absence of political power, which after gaining independence, many countries fell into chaos due to weak states and politics that lacked the historical mission. He said the weakness of African states today stems from identity-based politics rather than politics of interest and ideology. The president also reflected on the economic misstep, particularly the suppression of the private sector in post-independence Africa. He pointed to Uganda's own experience under Idi Amin, when Indians entrepreneurs were expelled, setting back the economy. On Africa's continued export of raw materials, Museveni said this practice has left the continent donating wealth and jobs to the world. On poverty, Museveni noted that many Africans still remain outside the money economy. He emphasized the National Resistance Movement, NRM, has focused on moving Ugandans from subsistence to commercial production through initiatives like Ntandikwa, NADS, and Operation Wealth Creation. Uganda is hosting the 11th Africa Regional Forum on Sustainable Development, which has attracted heads of state and former heads of states with over 2,000 delegates from across the African continent. Under the theme, Driving Job Creation and Economic Growth Through Sustainable, Inclusive, Science and Evidence-Based Solutions for the 2030 Agenda and 2063, the 11th African Regional Forum on Sustainable Development has proceeded with pre-events on the sideline. Yesterday, the Prime Minister of Uganda, Robert Nabanja, addressed women. Nabanja assured leaders that Uganda is ready to take lead in ensuring that the 17 Sustainable Development Goals are achieved by 2030. However, the Premier, who is also the Kakumiro Woman Member of Parliament, raised concern that many of the African continents are not on track in as far as attaining the Sustainable Development Goals under concern. Nabanja highlighted Uganda's achievement in assuring that women in Uganda attain equal status with their counterparts, the men. Currently, Uganda is the chair of the African Bureau on Sustainable Development, and this has attained because Uganda's good strides in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. The Premier informed delegates how the parish development model is being used by Uganda to empower Ugandan women economically. Officials from Uganda Human Rights Commission have appeared before the Legal Committee of Parliament to present their ministerial policy statement for the financial year 2025-2026. The statement indicates that government has allocated the Commission a total of 32.9 billion shillings, having increased it from 30.7 billion shillings for the financial year 2024-2025. The major concern raised by legislatures was on the organization's mandate and resource prioritization. The chairperson conceded to this gap in their budget and promised to collect it, while the Secretary Margaret Enyanga explained that they have mandatory requirements to provide for all fixed costs, which did not convince the members of Parliament. In her presentation, Wangadia said they do not have a backlog of cases. However, some MPs questioned the 968 cases under investigation level. One of their finding gaps in the ministerial policy statement is the special budget of 4.8 million shillings for activities of human rights in the 2026 general elections. The committee told the officials to come up with lists of the 266 cases concluded and also come up with costs on activities like those under research, education, and documentation, that is to take 770 million shillings next financial year's budget. Now, finally, on the local scene, sad indeed. Police have arrested 29 people over the gruesome murder of a police constable, Chemongis Sulaimani, attached to Bisheshe police station in Imanda district. Chemongis was killed by a mob at a funeral while offering services. Chemongis Sulaiman, a police officer attached to Bisheshe police station in Ibanda district, was deployed to provide security at a funeral of Kahangire Lazarus in Kabongo Cell, Bisheshe Division, Ibanda District. Kahangire, who had been accused of attempted murder, died while on remand at Nyabuhikire government prison. It is said that Chemongis tried to fight for his life by firing bullets, but was overpowered by the people who murdered him in cold blood, and his body was dumped along the road. Police later recovered an SMG rifle with 16 rounds of ammunition from the scene. 29 people were arrested, while other suspects are on the run. Recently, police introduced a standard operating procedure of not deploying unaccompanied officers for duty with an idea of protecting each other from people. But the time Chemong was attacked, he was alone on duty. And that brings us to the end of our local stories.
Oh my God, that footage is rather sad. It was blood, but you could still see what these people were doing to that police officer. May his soul rest in eternal peace. Whew. Anyway, we move on and we look at international news. The U.S. Supreme Court is allowing President Donald Trump to continue to use a rarely invoked wartime powers law to carry out rapid mass deportations of alleged gang members for now. A lower court had temporarily blocked the deportation of alleged Venezuelan gang members to El Salvador on 15th March, ruling that the actions under the 1798 Alien Enemies Act needed further scrutiny. Trump has alleged that the migrants were members of the trendy Aragua gang conducting irregular warfare against the U.S. and could therefore be removed under the act. While the administration is claiming the ruling as a win, the justices mandated that deportees must be given a chance to challenge their removal. Monday's ruling said the challenge brought by the American Civil Liberties Union on behalf of 5 migrants was raised improperly in a Washington, D.C. court and not in Texas, where the migrants are confined. Conservative Justice Amy Coney Barrett joined the court's 3 liberal justices in dissenting with a majority ruling. In the dissent, they wrote that the administration's conduct in this litigation poses an extraordinary threat to the rule of law. Now, moving on. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky has publicly acknowledged for the first time that his troops are active in Russia's Belgorod region. His comments also referred to Russia's Kursk region, where Ukraine still holds a small area after a major offensive last year. Moscow has since retaken most of the territory. Zelensky said the main objective was to protect Ukraine's Sumy and Kharkiv border regions and to ease the pressure on other parts of the vast front line, particularly in the western Donetsk region. Russia's military had last month reported Ukrainian attempts to cross over into the Belgorod region, but said such attacks had been rebuffed. Russian President Vladimir Putin launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022, and Moscow currently controls about 20% of Ukraine's territory. In his video address late on Monday, Zelensky said he had been briefed by his top commander, General Alexander Six, about the situation on the front, including a presence in the Kursk and Belgorod regions. Zelensky thanked several army units defending Ukraine, including the 225th Assault Regiment deployed in the Belgorod region. And lastly, Algeria has closed its airspace to all flights to and from Mali as the roar over a drone that was shot down close to their common border escalates. On Sunday, Mali accused its northern neighbor of being a sponsor and exporter of terrorism after Algeria attacked one of its drones last week. A strongly worded statement from Mali's foreign ministry challenged Algeria's earlier explanation that the unnamed surveillance aircraft had violated its airspace. The statement described the downing of the drone as a hostile premeditated action. Algeria described the allegations as lacking in seriousness and they warrant no attention or response. Mali's armed forces are fighting ethnic Tuareg separatists in the north. They have a stronghold in the town of Tinzaoutini, which straddles the Mali-Algeria border. The shooting down of the drone raised diplomatic tensions as Mali, along with its allies Niger and Burkina Faso, recalled their ambassadors from Algiers. Last year, the 3 junta-led countries formed a regional bloc, the Alliance of Sahel States, known by its French acronym ACE. Well, that does it for our international news. Now let's have a look at the dailies.
And in the dailies today, we are starting off with the New Vision, where 2026 polls is the story, and the headline: Reforms Sent to Cabinet. Justice Minister Mao outlines salient issues. That is in the New Vision, and a picture there of President Museveni, who tipped African leaders on growth in their economy. Now, paternity row. Honorary consul is father of dead baby. That in regards to a DNA test. That is the story in the New Vision. And father of dentistry, Dr. Chapman's 45 years of service. And a comment there: China committed to open economy, free trade. And floods, 68 deadly hotspots named. All of that in the New Vision. You can get yourself a copy. But looking at the Monitor, government shop stool to track social media. Very interesting. And the Uganda Communications Commission, UCC, says plans are in advanced stage to import equipment and technology it will use to monitor social media platforms ahead of the 2026 general elections. Now, still about that same, the lizard wonders, but it is service delivery where they draw the line. So says the lizard. But still in the Daily Monitor, Catholic priest suspended over defying church. And DNA tests confirm envoy is the father of dead baby boy. And head count of learners kicks off in Kampala. But also in the Daily Monitor, there are tenders, opportunities from Bank of Uganda, Total Energies, ECOP, Ministry of Kampala, GIZ, UNDP, World Vision, and ORD Aid. And the Rainbow Magazine visits Scrimland Junior Writers Club. Now let's take a look at the Citizen. Cross-border payments up by nearly 87%. And the value of outgoing cross-border transactions soared to 116.1 trillion shillings in 2024, with economists attributing the surge to a growing import bill, increased foreign investments by Tanzanian businesses, and rising demand for international services. In the Citizen, still the Citizen, to promote money conversations among children, and Mtwara gas boom hopes fizzle out. Also, Kikwete, how Africa can attain SDGs. And government minor trade blame over license suspension. Now taking a look at the Daily Nation, Gachagua's fight back. You're a liar. Impeached Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua yesterday launched a bare-knuckle pushback against President William Ruto's claims that he demanded 10 billion shillings to market the government's agenda in the Mount Kenya region. Instead, he made a raft of fresh allegations against his former boss, including that he has secret recordings of 2 billion shillings retirement package offered to him in exchange for his resignation ahead of his impeachment. Wow. Once friends and now the worst enemies. Interesting. But in the Daily Nation, Korea's bid to stop property auction flops. And Healthy Nation, Kenya's fake drug epidemic. But also still in the Daily Nation, do you have a persistent flu? Watch out for outbreak of influenza A. And massacre or not, governor unveils monument for 40 killed in Turkana. And finally, I thought I found Canaan only to land in hell. A Myanmar-Retanese wars. And also Ruto regime dodging responsibility, forcing Kenyans to finance its key programs. That's it from what we have in the dailies today. Good morning, Uganda.
Well, thank you so much, Julie. Now, when we come back, we will be having an interesting conversation. I believe that pretty much many of you have AI helpers on your phones. You have ChatGPT, we have Meta AI, we have Google Assistant, and so much more. So we will be having a conversation on surviving the artificial intelligence wave, youth unemployment, and the future of work. And we'll be speaking to Martin Aibaziwe, who is the Executive Director, OTIC Foundation, and also Miss Jessica Eleanor Nachanzi, who is the head legal OTIC Foundation. So please join us for this conversation. But for now, here is USA for Africa. We are the world.
Live from UPC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda. is Good Morning Uganda.
Welcome to Good Morning Uganda. My name is Olive Monica Najuma. It's a fresh new day. We have some rain already. Hopefully you can get to your place of work and business in one piece. Drive safe. Do not drive very fast because the roads are slippery, especially given that it is raining. That said, it's a beautiful morning. We're glad to be here to be having these enlightening conversations with you. That's what we do every single morning. Our role is to inspire, educate, and also entertain you, because that is our mandate as Uganda Broadcasting Corporation. Now, in Rizi sub-region, that is in Ibanda district, unfortunately, a police officer was turned on by a crowd of people at a burial, and unfortunately, he did lose his life. Now, the police officer had been sent to ensure that there is security at the burial of an inmate that took ill while in police cells and later succumbed and died. Now, according to the family, they made allegations that probably something happened to the deceased while incarcerated. Unfortunately, the crowd turned on the police officer and he lost his life. Quite sad news coming in from that side of the country in Uganda. Good morning, Julie.
Good morning, Olive.
How are you?
Good morning to you who's watching us on UBC today. Good morning, Uganda.
Yes, Julie, quite sad news coming in from Uganda. When I watched this news, the one thing that came to my mind is how intolerant as a people we've become towards police. For me, it paints a picture of us taking police not to be human beings and treating them any way we want. If there is, let's say, a theft, an accident, or anything that involves police, when you Ms. Olive Monica Najuma, I'm so glad that you're a part of us this morning, and we are delving into a conversation